Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Ink. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And as always, I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, and we would like to welcome you all to the Hockey Writers Ink, a Philadelphia Flyers-centric podcast. Lance, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. On this holiday weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, it's nice to get like a day off, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, extra day off. It's always good.
I mean, what's that, really, right? What's a day off? We don't know what a day off is, right? You know? Anyway, so thanks, everybody, for stopping by and checking us out, man. We really appreciate you guys coming in here and checking out the Hockey Writers Ink. And thanks to all of you guys' clicks, and thanks to all of you guys' views, and checking out the website and all that other great stuff. We have been ranked in the top 15 of all Philadelphia Flyers podcasts. That's right, the Hockey Writers Ink is ranked in the top 15 of all Philadelphia Flyers podcasts. So thank you guys very much. Really appreciate that. That's the Hockey Writers Ink salute for that, for sure. So thank you very much for that. And props and thanks to Spreaker for all their help to getting us out there on all of those podcasting platforms. That you can go to Spotify or Google or Amazon or Apple and iHeart and just type in Hockey Writers Ink on your keyboard and we'll come up, and all you have to do is give us a 5-star rating, and that helps us get ranked like we've been now in the top 15 of all Philadelphia Flyers podcasts. So thank you all very much for that, and thank you for Spreaker for doing that. Lance, we're going to get into all kinds of good stuff here, ain't we?
Yeah, I think we got a couple of topics to talk about for sure, so I'm ready.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks, we go, man. We're talking about episode 137, and training camp is just a few weeks away for the Flyers, and we are very much excited about how this camp is potentially shaping up. On the show last time, we talked about some of the battles that we're looking forward to, and I'll tell you what, this is going to be, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most exciting camps that I think for the Flyers in at least the most recent couple of years. What do you think, Lance?
Well, it all depends who really attends, but for the standpoint that you're talking about there, for sure, we talked about it last show. There's quite a few players that were familiar faces for some amount of years, and they're gone now. The Ivan Provorovs, the Kevin Hayes, they're going now, and some free agents went bye and some new ones came in. So it's going to be a different look on the team, and I'm here for it. It's actually got some spots open for the younger guys to come up and make the team, but they got to have to work for it. So yeah. I'm interested to see who's up for that challenge for sure.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why I think we are very excited about this camp. I mean, we're talking about the Bobby Brinks, the Emil Andres, the Tyson Forsters, the Ronnie Attards. I mean, you name it. The Jennings, the Helge Grans, this huge peck of prospect products that the Flyers actually have, and it's really kind of exciting because of exactly what you just pointed out. With the departure of some of these other players, all of the D'Angelos and, the Hayeses and the Provorovs and blah, 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 well, there's now some spots open now for some of these younger players. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting down the last couple weeks, before the season starts, and really see, who sticks around, who outright goes right back to, maybe the Phantoms camp or whatever like that. But I think they're going to keep a couple of guys around right up to the end,
Yeah,
and see and give them a big look. Some of these guys that are veteran players now, Travis Konechny's been here. You know what he can do. You want him ready for game one, but you also don't really need to see what he can do in preseason. You know,
exactly.
give these other guys, these younger guys, longer looks, and let them play more games. Sprinkle in some guys like Farabee and everything else in there, to and maybe Tippett in there that are younger that can really have the legs to do it, but allow them to play with some of these roster flyers so they're not just out there getting creamed or by an NHL heavy roster on the other side. But also, we actually have some real spots open, and as opposed to some teams that are, pretty much full of veteran players like the Rangers or somebody like that, have their lineup pretty well set. Well, we're not like that. We do have some spots open, so I want to see these guys get a real chance. We as we'll go through, the defense is loaded with prospects. Some guys, there's some big changes with Braun gone, with Provorov gone. There's some obvious spots there. We brought some other
D'Angelo
guys.
gone.
Yep, D'Angelo gone as well. So that's three guys on the defense that aren't going to be back. And I think we filled some of those spots with a Mark Stahl coming in and all that, but and Walker coming in as well. But the really, even Walker's not guaranteed a spot if one of these
That's
kids can
true.
come in and
That's
take it
true.
away from him. He's not making astronomical money where you're gonna need to play him because of what he's making, to offset that. One of these other kids, if they want it that bad, they could really take it. And of course, as we talked last show too, the goalie room is going to be, crazy. We got goaltenders. I think it's a three-headed horse right now. With one of them already playing somewhere else. He looks kind of suited there. We might get into that in a bit, but the goaltender carousel is going to be there as much it has been in the past 20-25 years. So definitely some spots open, definitely some battles set to ensue, as I always put it. So it should be interesting for sure.
This is like my favorite time of the year, right?
Definitely is. Yeah.
I mean, you're just now starting to get into college football. This is, week zero. Um, the NFL's getting ready to ramp up. You got the Philadelphia Flyers are going into training camp here starting on the 14th of September. Now that is just 12 days away now, and
Playoff
it's
baseball. Yeah.
playoff baseball. You know what I'm saying? And for those of y'all that like basketball, that's going to be starting up here real soon. So you got college football, you got regular football, you got college basketball, you got hockey, right? And then you
Mhm.
also got all of the junior leagues in hockey are all starting up. All the college leagues in hockey are starting up. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. So there's this is a really good time of year to be watching hockey and to be getting into some hockey. And I one of the things that you talked about was the fact that with the departure of a lot of these guys, that some of these younger guys are going to get or should get a longer look. And I think that's going to start right off with the rookie games, the rookie series of games that's going to happen between the New York Rangers on Friday the 15th and Saturday the 16th. That's all just rookies against rookies. You know what I mean? And man, I'll tell you what, that those are going to be a set of games that I would not mind being a fly on the wall for those games.
No, they're
Do,
definitely fun to watch. Those guys go at it. They know like that is, potentially some of their last chance to really show people what they got before they start even making, decisions on who's going to actually get invited to the big camp. Because unlike development camp, you can't bring everybody in. And some people's seasons are already starting to ramp up, at least practices with the NCAA and some, even OHL and everything else, Canadian leagues are
Yeah,
starting
have
to
already
get back
started.
in as
Yeah.
well. So, they're if they're going to be not even a chance to make the team, some of those players are going to go back pretty quickly to their respected teams that they are going to play for in that regard. So, it's a quick snippet, a couple of games where these guys can get out. They can really show the big club what they got before they're going to have to eventually go back and play in, the CHL somewhere or the NCAA or whatever else. So definitely some good games and definitely a good collection of everybody brought in there. Um, uh, Rookies on rookies. I like it rather than them getting
Yeah.
blown out by some team that just wants to have 3/4 of their NHL team playing versus, the Flyers night of saying, hey, let's put most of the rookies out there and have a sprinkling of, NHL guys out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into some of this other stuff here, there's a couple other things I want to kind of just broach with you. And I know that we've talked about some of the goalies things and everything in the last couple of shows with Carter Hart and everything else like that. But one of the things that I've been kind of seeing and reading of late is Travis Konechny potentially being shopped, or his name is. I mean, I don't really know how to say. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't necessarily say he's on the trading block, but I think that maybe it's one of those things where the team is letting it be known that he is potentially available if they would like to make a deal.
Well, I don't know if I would even go that far with it, but you know, he had a great season last year. He was a
Oh yeah,
bright
by
spot
far.
on a bad team. He had career year with in goals with, he finished with 31. His highest before that was 24.
Yeah.
So, had a great season, 30 assists, 61 points. He tied his career high in points. He was a -12, which wasn't the greatest, but it was better than the -23 from the season before. Now,
Right.
it's tough because he can play both sides of the ice. Um,
Now.
now, he can play a right wing, he can play a left wing. He's only 26 years old, guys. I mean, he's spent, multiple seasons now. He came up very young
Yeah.
from Ottawa and the Sarnia Sting in the OHL and really was able to come up young and play right away with the Flyers. So
Yep.
he
Yep.
seems like he's been here forever, but he's only 26. He's in the
I
prime
know.
of his
Gosh.
career, in the
Jeez.
prime of his career. And the Flyers, if they can get something back, potentially big for him, then I think they're willing to do it. But in my mind, it would have to be a first, and it would have to be a top level NHL ready prospect. I think at least uh,
Okay. Yeah.
to get that deal done.
Yeah.
And you know, it's going to be
Okay.
tough to move his $5.5 million salary this late in the game without
True, but
making it some sort of NHL player coming back our way too. Um,
okay.
and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
So, but it could be done. It still could be done because he is a very valuable asset to a team. He has shown that he can be consistent. With 24 plus goals years, he's bounced back and really took that first line role and ran with it and took the team on his back last year when we didn't really have the Couturier, we didn't have Atkinson, So if it was to happen, it would have to be huge, for sure. And I'm not so sure that if it wasn't a deal you couldn't turn down, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse, right? It would have to be one of those because Konechny is in the prime of his career. He's young enough where he could stay here and lead some of these young guys for the future. Yeah. And he's valuable in that sense, where he's young enough to be here in the next couple of years when these guys come up and really get going. And he's only going to be 28, 29. But I can see why they're at least listening to offers for him. They're in a position that they're in the past couple of years. And if somebody comes calling with that right price, it can make a deal work. You
got it.
You got to, and that's what I think they did with Provorov. I mean, I think Travis has got a nice contract, and but it's going to be up here soon too. It's for 24, 25, so it's got 2 years left. This year and next, but okay, it's interesting.
Yeah, okay. You got to at least pick up the phone.
Yeah.
You got to at least pick up the phone and you got to at least listen. And it's got to at least be exactly what you said. It's got to be, I mean, we need at least a first round or a ready to go prospect or both or something, a combination thereabouts. It's going to have to be like that for Travis Konechny. It just has to be. I don't necessarily think that would be a bad thing if he were to be moved. Because, to be quite honest with you, for the age that he is, for the level of play that he's got a pretty friendly deal. $5 million for the next 2 years, let's face it. There's a lot of teams out there that could very, very easily take that on without any problem. I mean, that's a pretty friendly deal for a Travis Konechny, a guy who's scoring 30 goals or averaging 25 goals over the last 3 seasons. Do you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't have a problem with taking that on as a team or as somebody going, hey, I could use a Travis Konechny, and this is what I'd be willing to give up for it. Do you know what I mean? So I just wanted to see what your thoughts were, just because I've kind of been seeing some of that floating out there. You know what I mean? And I just kind of, I thought it for a minute, but I think we talked about this like way back many months ago, and we said, look, you're gonna have to leave a little bit of meat on the bone.
Yeah.
And
you still got to have a team that somebody's gonna want to come see for the next couple of years.
And if you don't have that Travis Konechny, now you lose that. I mean, it's a reason to come and watch the game. Do you know what I'm saying? And I understand and I get it, and it makes a lot of sense, but I think we need that one on the bone. But if the right deal comes along, then okay. So
I think in that the Oilers have been a name there, but I don't really like their cabinet of prospects. I much rather see him. I've heard Pittsburgh, but I don't think there's any way that they're going to trade with Pittsburgh. A more realistic team.
I just had just come right to here with that.
That's nausea. Yeah. I think a great destination for him would be Detroit. And they could rob Detroit of some prospects. Yes. That would be amazing guys. You got Nate Danielson. You got the Nielsen brothers there, both Noah and Liam. You got Red Savage there. Yeah. Cross Hannes, who I really liked from a couple of drafts ago. I'm looking down the list here, and I can really just see some guys, and I like that guy. I like that guy. Just like the Kings, when they made that trade, there's any number of names that Danny Briere could have said, and then they say, well, I don't know if I'm ready to trade that guy. Okay, well, what about, you know, this guy? And it was able to still get a good prospect. You weren't looking at a list with one or two guys that you wanted. You're looking at a list where you could say, man, I I'm looking at the goalies and of the Red Wings, and I see Sebastian Cossa, and I see Trey Augustine, who they just drafted, who I really liked. There's a lot of names on every single position because I mean, let's face it, they got a great GM, and he knows what he's doing, and
Go figure.
Built those Tampa Bay teams, and now he's doing the same thing for his old team himself with the Red Wings. So,
Yeah.
I much rather see that deal go down. He's out of our face anyway. He's not going to be coming to play us 8 times in a season.
True.
And we'd be able to get a little something for him.
And now I also kind of remember that I also talked to, and you've even written articles about this as well too. And we're going to get into another particular player that I think we need to talk about, or at least recognize too, that you just recently wrote about. But you talked about Lafreniere coming over from the Rangers. You know what I mean? And any
He's
kind
signed,
of deal.
yeah. He's signed
Yeah.
now with
Yeah.
them. Team
But I
friendly
mean,
deal, 2 years, I think.
yeah.
2 million plus. So essentially, he's not a center, but I think that should be grounds for expectations of Frost now, and be like, look, man, this guy was a number 1 overall draft pick, who's scored the same amount of goals as you and all that stuff, and he's signed for 2 million. It's just not in the market for what you're asking. Granted, I wasn't in the negotiating rooms. I don't know exactly what they've been asking, but I would really not go over a very similar contract for Morgan Frost. Give me 2-year deal, give me $2 million tops for him,
Less.
and if or less. You're a first round pick, but you're not a number 1 overall pick like him. Let's keep things realistic here. I would really hate to see the Flyers try to wrap him up for 5 years. I don't think that they're overly impressed with him in the first place, and I think that's why they haven't just jumped at what him and his manager or whatever lawyer have been firing back at them. So I don't know. I would say that's a good way to go for that.
Right.
But yeah, it would be nice. I could see it both ways going back to the Konechny thing, man. It would be nice to get a deal and get some NHL ready prospects to load up the system with, and have all firing at the same time with the Gauthiers, with the Mishkovs, with the Forsters, all coming up, and the Cam Yorks all around the same age. That would be great. But you got to leave a little meat on the bone, man. You got to leave somebody there to teach them something when they come up. And I think Konechny's that guy that I would
Yeah.
keep. Him
Yeah.
and Lawton. Anybody else, is kind of fair game in that sense. But I don't know if anybody would
Yeah.
really want much else besides those 2 players left right now. So
I'm with you.
yeah, besides Carter Hart, if that all clears up,
Right. Yeah. Which we talked about that in the last show.
Still
But I just
waiting
want
for.
yeah. Right. So Lance, you just put an article out here. What, yesterday, the day before?
Yep.
And a potential free agent, an undrafted free agent that the Flyers should be taking a look at, and this potentially, I mean, and Lance, I'll tell you what, man, you always put out articles that always just seem to be about the right thing at the time. You just talked about fraud, right? And to be quite honest with you, I would much rather not waste the money on fraud and bring in a guy like this article that you just wrote about, and that's Austin Swankler, an undrafted free agent that the Flyers should be looking at. Talk to me.
Sure. So the premise of this, like you were kind of touching on, is Danny Briere has come in and he has done a lot of things, a lot of good things. He's not only made, the right moves as far as uh, free agents go, and signings, as well as letting go, JVR and stuff like that. He's made some trades, some definite off ice stuff, and is bringing in John LeClaire and Patrick Sharp and moving up, different people within the management side of things, getting rid of certain people that have been there for a while that aren't working behind the scenes, little names that you may not know, but guys that have been longstanding figures, and females, longstanding figures in the realm of things, and really haven't been working out, and they're gone. And this is one aspect, I think, that he has yet to touch. And this is the undrafted free agent market that most playoff teams are forced to go and sign these players. When they're perennial playoff teams, they're not going out and they're not getting the top 10, top 15 players, prospect wise and all that, right? So every year they're drafting 28th, 29th, 27th, 30th, whatever. So in order to get NHL ready prospects, because those guys at 28, 29, they're not going to be ready in a year or two, possibly. They're going to take a little bit longer, like a second or third round pick might take. If you get a guy inside the top 15, he should be ready to go within a season's time.
At least.
Or maybe two. They should be ready to go, right? Ready to join the team. But when you're drafting 28th, 29th overall, sometimes those guys take a little bit to develop. Well, a lot of times these guys that are perennial playoff teams don't really have that time. But it doesn't mean the Flyers can't pick from that tree either, because, let's face it, they need all the help they can get prospect wise to get this team turned around quickly as well, because some of Chuck Fletcher's picks kind of struck and some of them haven't, like any GM, right? So in order to counteract that, the Flyers should look at this kid, because let me tell you, Austin Swankler is a Pennsylvania-born prospect. He is a center. He's 6 foot tall, 185 pounds. He's moved around a lot, right? He was an undrafted prospect where in his draft, who was affected really. He played in the USHL, was traded mid-season in the USHL. He uprooted and went and had a pretty good season for the Erie Otters of the OHL back in 1920 season, where he had 18 goals, 27 assists for 45 points. But then he was kind of affected by that OHL shutdown, right? They didn't play for a whole season. He didn't play hockey. So he was kind of forgotten about in that drafting process. And he doubled back. He begged and pleaded because of that season. Once you go to the OHL, you're kind of NCAA status is forgotten about. Like you can no longer play there. But because of that, he begged the NCAA to let him come back and play, and they granted that. And he had a kind of okay season, not too good, but he hadn't played for a year. He was sitting because of the OHL and shutting down for COVID. So this past season, he really was his sophomore season at Bowling Green State University, and he took off. He had 19 goals, 25 assists for 44 points in 35 games. That's a 1.25 point per game average last season.
Yeah, I'd say that's taken off.
Was a Hobey Baker Award nominee
Ooh.
Wasn't a finalist, but he was a nominee, right?
Nominee.
And he had the best defensive season that he had at a plus 13 average. He was able to maintain. So I like that as well. But there's a lot to like about this kid, Steel. And I'm here to tell you, some people are going to be looking to snatch him up. A lot of people were looking at him. He went to the defending national or Stanley Cup champs development camp. He was an attendee there this year with the Golden Knights. All
Oh
right.
wow.
But,
Okay.
yeah. But ultimately, he made a promise to his mom, and he said he would go back and get his degree. And that's why he kind of didn't turn pro this offseason, and sign like some of the others, like McAllister and all who we had on Prospect Watch and all that, and Yaniv Peretz and all that. But he didn't sign. He's going back. He is going to have a monster season this year, Steele. I really think this kid is capable of, I say, 25 goals and 50 points is what I'm projecting for him, is what I'm hoping he has this season. And I think he's going to be a top undrafted free agent signing come the end of their season this year. And I think it's a name that the Flyers should really have on their board circled, and really get some scouts out there to see this kid, because he's a ready-to-go prospect right now. He could turn at the end of the season, signed, sealed, delivered, the day after they get kicked out of the playoffs. He could come and dress for the Flyers. All right? And
there you go.
And that's what it is. He's 22 years old, all right? He would be a ready-to-go prospect that would immediately play on the top line for the Phantoms, or potentially a third or fourth line, and could, if Morgan Frost doesn't want to play ball, I really don't want to have to see the Flyers sign him for 3 or 4 year deal when he really hasn't proved himself. He had a decent season last year, but that was because he was playing top line minutes, because Sean Couturier was out. So if Sean Couturier plays this year, I want to see the kind of production that he's going to have playing a third line role. We talked about Lafreniere for the Rangers in a potential trade and past articles and shows. He did the same kind of production from a third line.
Yeah.
With 2 NHL All-Stars playing in front of him without getting any playoff or power play time and all that. So, he put up the same kind of numbers that Morgan Frost did. So this year playing top line minutes. So I don't want to see him sign to any big deal and block somebody else being able to come up, and us going right back into having to overpay for a guy who had inflated numbers because he had inflated ice time, and he was playing with the Konechnys and everybody at Farabees and all that last season, when he's not going to, next season if Sean Couturier plays. So that's where I think this kind of kid in Austin Swankler would be a great signing, really, to bring in, because it would just add immediate NHL ready depth to the Flyers, and that's what I would really like to see. Too many guys get signed like this, of this quality. And it used to be a thing of the past where you say, oh, the NCAA, you sign these players, not everybody turns out. But, the NCAA is turning into one of the better leagues in all of hockey right now. Because it is extremely, extremely competitive, because every single year you're seeing top 10, top 5 picks go to the NCAA and play a season or two before they sign and come to their NHL teams. I mean, we have our own Cutter Gauthier, playing, right? Back-to-back seasons in NCAA, and there's tons and tons of guys that are first, second round draft picks deciding to stay and going to a year to a college. It is very, very physical league. You're playing against guys not like in junior Canadian leagues that are 14, 15, 16 years old. You're playing against guys, like Swankler, who's 21, 22, potentially even 23,
Man,
24, 25.
man,
Men. You're playing
you're
men.
right. Yeah.
Instead of boys, and shining, scoring 100 some points, and juniors playing against boys at 19 or 20, or you can go play in the NCAA and play against men that are legit, and you look at some of the players, that were undrafted free agents, and you throw out names at college, NCAA, undrafted players, and you look at Ed Belfour, Curtis Joseph, Adam Oates, Joey Mullen, Martin St. Louis, those players haven't played in a while, but you can add to that list of names of guys that have come out, signed undrafted deals. Like I said before, you look at Yaniv Peretz, you look at Ryan McAllister. I think they're going to make big thing, big impacts for their teams now.
I agree.
So there's a lot of Hunter McCowan for Columbus. He came in and scored some goals immediately in his first game, right off the NCAA ice onto NHL ice. So there is that old stipulation or scare, but I think it's gone now. I think quality prospects are being found and snatched out of the NCAA. Because there's so many scouts in the stands for these top level prospects that they're watching of their own that are already drafted, that you're seeing these kids that were passed up for one reason or another, like for COVID and everything else, like Swankler was. And now he's found, a redemption, in playing in NCAA. So I would really, really like to. I've been in talks with Swankler and sent him this article even, and he read it and really liked it. And, trying to get him on the show, God willing, but let's sign him, guys. Danny, send some scouts up to Bowling Green, man.
I mean,
this kid is pretty darn good. If I can talk about his game a little bit and break it down, we talked about some stats already, and that's one thing. But there's a couple of little short videos on in the article. If you go read the article at SteelFlyers.com. Like I said, like Steel said, I just posted it a couple days ago. But I think this guy, among probably anybody else in NCAA hockey, has a dynamic sense of keeping the puck close and tight to his body, and like nobody can really take the puck away from this kid once he has it. He just somehow manages to short stick it and keep it so tight but so crisp, and still able to shake a goalie right out of his pads, and only moving the puck within this window right between his legs, not out here doing all this back and forth and getting the puck taken away from him. He's so crisp, but so nice, and so stellar with his moves, so tight into his body that he's got good puck control, and is able to guard that puck so nobody can get it from him once he gets it. And once he has it on his stick, he's working. His skating ability has improved since his time in the NCAA, and really developing that, and so that he can really just take it off to the bust out of the stables and go when he gets that puck. So I think it'll be even better this year in that sense, and that's going to get him signed by somebody, and it really needs to be the Flyers. I think it would add to their depth at center. They have Frost, they have Knuble, they have Barkey. They just traded for Rizzo, the rights to Rizzo. They got some centers there, but honestly, a safe bet who could play pro hockey tomorrow if they signed him would be the Swankler kid. and whether it be for the Phantoms or for the Flyers, it'd probably be the Phantoms starting out. But man, this kid's good, and it's a steal. It's a steal that you wouldn't have to wager a draft pick on at all. You
I
wouldn't have
mean,
to
for
wait for the
real, all I have to
draft.
do is
He could
just
he
offer
could
him a
play this year.
contract.
He could play this year and just offer him a contract.
There you go. I would be all for that. You know what I mean? Everything that I've seen about the young man has been impressive. I mean, when you are down that year because of COVID and then still be able to come back and do what he was able to do with, only playing in amount of games and still scoring that many goals and being a plus player. I mean, you got to be looking at that. And quite frankly, I would much rather give that money to a player like Swankler than I would be to Frost all day long. Okay, because I can at least sign Swankler to a two-way and half the money or a third of the money. Do you know what I mean? And I would get. I think I would potentially get a
Yeah.
at that. You know what I mean? Compared to Frost. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think I've seen enough of Frost, and I'm not convinced. I'm not sold. You know what I mean? But everything I've seen about Swankler has been definitely made from Frost, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Frost is an NHL player. We know that. He's finally developed to be that.
Right.
But that's the thing, like, the Flyers really need to be careful here because Danny Briere has just been able to get out of some of that cap hell that Chuck Fletcher created and not bringing back, JVR and trading away Ivan Provorov and, Kevin Hayes
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, yeah.
D'Angelo. So he's done so much in such a short amount of time to get rid of salary cap. I would really, really hate to see him jump and have to bite a bullet because Frost
And
is
have to
trying to
make,
play
yeah,
hardball and
yeah.
then bring in, Sean Couturier back and all this, and then not have that kind of time on the ice for Morgan Frost and having to have him play with lesser players. And I still don't think that, he's going to hold his own to be able to be a 20 goal, 19 goal scorer, even a 15 goal scorer next season. And I don't want to risk it and pay him $3, $4, $5 million because he helped us out last year playing first line minutes and he scored 19 goals.
Yeah.
I don't want to sign him for 5 years because of that. I don't want to sign him for $5 million, $4 million because he did that. Thank you for doing that when we didn't have, any healthy people to be there. But I really don't want to
Our time
overpay him
is,
and be right
yeah,
back in the cap
yeah.
hell. If he wants to play hardball, let him play
See ya.
hardball, trade his rights, and get something else for him. We're rebuilding anyway. Um,
I'm with you,
we're
dude.
rebuilding
I would be
anyway.
all over that. I'd be all over that. And I'll tell you what. I think the Flyers should definitely be taking a hard look at the things that, obviously, we make suggestions. Like, hey, we're trying because we'd like to see this team be as successful as it possibly could be. So, Lance, you just released an article just the other day. You got anything in the works?
Um, I'm pondering on some things. I might do another Prospect Watch article coming up. I still have a couple players that I really want to, before the season starts, I want to point out that, some guys that are going to be sneaky good and surprise a lot of people so
Yeah,
that, the viewers actually can keep an eye out and the readers can keep an eye out for these players
for
this
sure,
season
man. For
and get
sure.
an early jump on them before they
There you go.
do what I say they're going to do this year. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There you go. Because seasons are getting ready to start and everything like that. So that's great, man. Well, why don't you, folks, where we can find you and get you, sir?
As always, you can find all the articles on SteelFlyers.com. As you guys have been doing so well, tell a friend, you know. But also, you can check my stuff out on Twitter. You can follow me at Lance.Green39. I'm always on there. You can always ask me questions or questions potentially you want answered on the show. And you can get my stuff on Flyers, any of the Flyers Facebook groups and stuff like that. I try to post everything out to there. I'm always thankful for them because they are bringing us some new viewers all the time. I see guys all the
so
time.
Thank you very much for that.
Yep, always see brand new guys liking and stuff, new articles or the show. So always welcoming new readers, new viewers to the show.
Yeah, thank you
guys for tuning in and choosing to listen to us and reading what I put out. Really appreciate it, guys. As we grow this website and always welcoming new fans. So appreciate you guys.
It's great to see, man. It's great to see. It's great to see how people have kind of started to realize that, hey, we're putting out really good quality stuff. You know what I mean? And we're not trying to necessarily sugarcoat things, but we're just trying to put the truth out. You know what I mean? And so thank you very much for checking us. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52, but more importantly, you can find all the great stuff from the Hockey Writers Ink, from Prospect Watch to the Nittany Report to the SteelFlyers Show, and of course the Hockey Writers Ink. All you have to go to SteelFlyers.com and check us out. We really appreciate you guys doing that. We really appreciate all the folks that come and watch and all the folks that have come to the website. We really appreciate that. So thanks for all that you do, the editor-in-chief, the writer extraordinaire, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer. He's got all these great nicknames, so Thanks, everybody, for catching us on the Hockey Writers Ink, a Philadelphia Flyers-centric podcast. We will catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink.